Hello, fellow reloaders. Professor P here, and we are back with part 5 of our examination of the 57x28. Happy to say we made it to range, had a safe time. That said, there are 4 rules for gun safety. If you don't know what those are, then you should probably be watching a video on those. We are talking about reloading, and as always, the safety of reloading is your responsibility and your responsibility alone, because unfortunate things do happen every now and then. This case right here is an example of that. So this is a case that ruptured. This does happen occasionally. Oddly enough, this was a fairly low power charge and it was a first time reloaded case. It is a safety hazard when it happens, so be wary of that. It's important to note here that everything you see is mine. I don't shill for any products or services. Any of the brands or anything I talk about are things I actually use. That said, these were 2 cases with a low power and a higher power charge of accurate number 7. So this one was loaded down around 6.1 grains, and the one with the red head stamp here was loaded a little higher. Probably hard to tell. There is just a little bit of expansion on the higher charge round. Probably go another grain, but it is definitely starting to fill out a little bit more, and we can see where it's flattening out the primer dent a little bit. Probably where we'd want to stop. So I do sort and organize all my cases. I do look at them all to make sure that we don't have any sort of significant problem. And every time I go out, I also shoot some fresh factory. Most of this was this SS197 SR. Let's look here at some target. So when I'm ammo testing, and this is a suggestion I make to other people, I do not typically use at a close range react. So reactive targets make it very easy to see, and I find that I tend to want to correct the shots. If I'm shooting low and left, I tend to want to correct and bring that up. You don't want to do that when you're ammo testing. I want to see what the ammo looks like as it's really shooting. And what you see here then are a couple of targets with the SS197 SR. This is the factory ammo. I always shoot some, and I like to bracket my shots at the beginning and the end. But this group was right at 1.68 inches. This next group over here, this is the same factory ammo shot at the end of this session. This opening of the group up to 2.52, very common during a shooting session. You get tired. It's very normal to see a group open up like that. These were shot at 10 yards. Happy with the tighter group. Best performer of the day. This was 6.4 grains of accurate number 7. It ran a fairly nice tight group. Not all of them are this short, and I'll put up data here in a minute so you can see all the group sizes. Accurate number 5, for example, this was 5.2 grains. You can see this group opened up significantly. Using a blind target where I can't see the shots a little closer in gives me a little better ability to look at those. We'll look at a couple of the rifle targets. These were all shot out at 50 yards with the PS90. So this was the ram shot, and frankly, at between 25 and 50 yards, the firearm and the various ammo were shooting so tight that it's hard to really say that one group was significantly better than the other. I am using 2 MOA red dot, which at 50 yards is almost the size of the center bullseye on this. The winner of the day, though, was the 6.5 grains of accurate number 7. At 6.5 grains of number 7, we saw an extremely tight group, and this last shot here I actually fired because I couldn't tell if I was hole through a hole or not. So I moved my point of aim up and put one last shot in, and realized at that point that I was actually shooting a very, very, very tight group. That's at 50 yards. Very happy with that performance. Again, going to see if we can shoot that one a little bit longer range. With that, let's look at some data. Alrighty friends, here's some data. Certainly not all the data that I collected. Over here on the left, we'll see that 6.4 and 6.5 grains of accurate number 7 on the 40 grain VMAX worked really, really well. That 1.7 group very close to the initial group at 1.68. I did shoot them in more of a random order. These are the spoilers for the 35 grain VMAX and the 45 grain Sierra. Did shoot a very nice small group with that with Ramshot True Blue and that heavier bullet. Probably put a little more attention into that. All of these 35 grain VMAX with this bottom end powder charge did not cycle well. Those definitely need to come up and load. The delta V, or the change in velocity from pistol up to the carbine, I really expected accurate number 7 to be higher. So this is an average of averages, and Ramshot True Blue actually came in with a higher delta V. So that's the velocity difference between the FN57 pistol and the carbine length of the PS90. The spoilers that I did shoot on the 35 grain and the 40 grain, there's the speeds that went with those and the weights that I had used. I do collect the data for standard deviations, and a group of 6 to 8 shots is just not really a statistically valid number. So I like to wait until I'm in the 20s and 30s at a powder load before I kind of start judging the extreme spreads. I did, just for a look at it, take standard deviation of all the factory rounds that I had fired and cataloged and the extreme spread of those out of the pistol versus all of the reloads and the extreme spread. Again, I like to visualize the horizontal lines as factory loads. The diagonal lines here represent the minimum charge and the max charge, in this case from the Western and the Hodgkins manuals. And you can see here where I started intentionally low. I was hoping to see some cycling issues and just a low powder down here. I did not get that. I was very surprised. They actually shot reasonably well. I am going to run this up probably 2 more 1/10 of grain increments, just see if we can get that up into the factory FN level. Nice clean progression though in powder. That very, very nice to see. Now this was the 40 grain ammo number 5 versus the carbine length. And what we do see here is we're still lagging a little bit. And of course it didn't grow in delta V, or the velocity to the carbine, as much as the others did. We are still a bit below here. And this is why I think the 2 more powder levels and see if we can get up here. I'm not confident that even at that moderate charge, the number 5 will ever quite catch up in the carbine length. This is Ramshot True Blue in the pistol. Again, nice progression. This is wonderful, wonderful progression. When you see this, don't always see it like that. And we'll look at accurate number 7 here in a minute. But nice progressions in velocity. This is a nice place. It was, and we are right just above that Western manual. What's interesting here is we are above the line, meaning we're getting a little more velocity out of the stated charge, but we are fairly far off that Lyman manual, which is really interesting. Again, different test conditions in those. We'll look at that at the carbine length. Again, the manual down here, way down here, because they were all shot in pistols. There is no manual data for a carbine length. And if we look up in here, we'll see we have a nice progression. And this is an example where the delta V, the gain in velocity going up to the carbine length, was substantial. So we have moved up significantly on our velocity line. And we look at accurate number 7. This is more what I'm used to with test data. Here, the second powder level was really out of the line. So much so, I will probably go out and retest that. And I feel like this number here, so this is
6.4 and 6.5.
After I loaded everything, I still had a bunch of cases left and went ahead and used second and third cases to load up some fourth and fifth. Very happy that 6.4 grains got me right to velocity wise where these FN factory rounds are, and the 6.5 grains got us significantly higher. What's really interesting is that the 6.5 grains out of the carbine length shot exceptionally well. Very, very happy with how that group. Again, we are in the Western and the Hodgkins manual line, or at least operating around it. It is concerning to me just a little bit how the slope of this line is significantly different. So if we threw a best fit on here, we would find that it's a much steeper line. But again, we are very high above the Lyman manual. And again, if we look at that data in the carbine length here, we'll see that 6.5 just right in there between 6.4 and 6.5. Have to probably pull out a better scale and weigh those out at 6.45 and see if we find a sweet spot in here where the ammo is performing well. Overall, these velocities are really good in the carbine length, and the accuracy on the 6.5 was absolutely phenomenal.
All right, so to wrap up part number 5, we are going to run 2 more increments here on our accurate number 5. See if we can't get a little bit closer to our factory velocities. So that's plan number 1. Plan number 2, we're going to redo what should be accurate number 7 there, and we're going to shoot some more of those and validate if they're really that high. I really feel like those should be down just a little bit lower, but let's collect more data and find out. So that'll be our plan for the next set of loads. The other thing I am doing right now is I have mounted an optic on this rifle. So this is an ultralight tactical upper, and it is the 5.7 uses the P90 magazines. I showed this before. A fascinating little rifle, just using a standard AR lower. I did find I couldn't get a regular scope on here and still get the magazine in and out, so I did grab a scope off of a pistol. It does have a bit of a long eye relief, not exactly a super high quality scope, but it does go out to 5 power, which will give me a little bit better ability to see out at distance because, you know, old and blind. What is interesting about it, though, is it did shoot some fairly good groups. All right, so before I put the optic on it, I ran this out with a 2 MOA red dot. And keep in mind, 2 MOA red dot is bigger than this square at 100 yards. So this was the first effort with this rifle to run it out to 100 yards with just a red dot that I would normally not use more than 50 yards on. With the red dot, I did this. I want to find out what we can do and see if this little 5.7 cartridge can shoot some distance. Close out number session 5 here. Forward to seeing it in session 6.